What we're doing here is part of the study that the two villages and the school district is doing on the possibilities of consolidating, sharing, working together on our parks and recreation programs and departments, and trying to see if, as we go forward, there's better ways to do it together in which we can come up with more effective, efficient, more productive ways of approaching parks and rec. Ben, Nicole, and Jacqueline are our consultants that we hired through a grant that we got from the state, and they're in the midst of, I guess it's a 13 months?
About.
And you're about half?
We're more than halfway.
A little more than halfway through. And this is the first of two public forums. And this one's focusing on the notion of a master plan, trying to get together the community's sense of what it needs, what it sees we're doing now, what it sees we're doing right, what it sees we're doing wrong, and what we need to do more of, less of, differently. But with that, I'll turn it over to them. So they're the pros.
Tonight what we're doing is having a first public meeting on the Recreation Shared Service Study between the Village of Sleepy Hollow, the Village of Tarrytown, and the school district. What we're hoping to accomplish here is identifying the recreation needs for both communities, and then work on an organizational structure that will allow both communities to increase the service delivery efficiencies and decrease the cost to residents here in both communities. As the mayor said, we're doing a tri-agency shared services recreation study. What does that mean? Well, what we're trying to figure out is what can we do to improve the service delivery and recreation to all your residents. And who's involved? Both villages and the school, because you have a large number of opportunities. We have to look at our budget. And in doing that, both villages and the school realize that there's overlapping in facilities and personnel and equipment. The economic times in the early 2000s and most recently in 2007, 2008 have really hit home. And now we're all trying to do more with less while still maintaining a level of service that our residents want and demand. So that's what we're here for now. I have to say, cross-populated or cross-utilized each other's parks. On your page, you'll see names and locations of all the parks. Quickly, as a summary, the Village of Tarrytown owns 9 parks. Sleepy Hollow owns 7 parks. The public schools have 6 additional recreational facilities. 8 of these facilities are adjacent to Broadway. 16 outdoor fields exist right now in the boundaries of Tarrytown and Sleepy Hollow. And then there's an additional 4.4 miles of the Aqueduct Trail that crosses your communities that can be used for a variety of multi-purpose recreation activities. Don't forget, and one of the things people do forget is the county actually owns land, and the state owns land here. There's 232 acres, plus or minus, in Rockefeller State Park.
Going forward, we still have a few more committee meetings to hash out the different aspects of the shared service study as well as the recreation goals. We have a shared services community survey, which will come more towards the end of the findings. So as the shared services results presents itself, we'll make sure that there's feedback presented to the public so that you're able to provide your own input on whether or not you agree with these shared service ideas. Is this a direction you'd like your community to go in or not?
Some of the challenges overall that we identified via stakeholder interviews include the shortage of field space, the overuse of fields, the lack of gym space, lack of community space for middle and high school students to gather.
And just write the table number that you are at the top right-hand corner of your page. That way we can collate them at the end.
The parks are in good shape, the fields are in bad shape.
Can't say it enough.
Can't say it enough. There's a suggestion that we should come up with some sort of public transportation to move the players around so that we're not constantly having people driving minivans with one kid in them to a practice or a game.
It's the shape of the tennis courts that we do have, okay, shape, and some of the playground structures.
All right, and then question 4, what facilities are needed, could be improved? We're going to start with table 7.
Well, we started with restrooms, more of them, better or an additional pool, water fountains at the parks and the fields, the building of a community center, better, this actually kind of follows on to what the gentleman was saying at the other table there, better availability and coordination of scheduling and the calendars, for instance on a website I guess, or on signage to avoid double booking, and finally lighted fields.
Dedicated soccer field, turf fields, better access to the river, more places to store kayaks, more indoor recreational space, a field house.
Artificial turf, upgraded play equipment for younger children, redesigned fields for efficient use of space. That's the only original stuff we have.
Better maintenance and communication through all the towns and the school district.
Centralized management of the rec department, maybe in a computerized system for access to scheduling, so that it's all coordinated.
I'd like to see more waterfront access, connected bike paths, more after-school programs for our youth, and more volunteer opportunities for our youth in helping maintain the parks.
Table 3, Tish.
I think someone said aquatic center. We talked about doggy walks or doggy runs, the teen center, tennis courts, and also mechanisms for self-funding and sustainable programs.
Less than 5 years, maybe one recreation department, also construction of the turf field with some lights, and also perhaps a private-public type of partnership to work on the recreation.
Passionate about a community center, and all of us, I believe, or most of us here have kids either currently or have recently been involved in wanting to improve the quality of the recreation departments. We have the village administrator here who's going to have to, for Tarrytown, is going to have to deal with a lot of this stuff, so he came here to keep an eye on, make sure it didn't get too out of control. We also have village trustees, Board of Ed members on this at this table, and people want rec facilities at the gym plant sooner rather than later.
Better facilities at DeVries and Kingsland.
Important to support a community center. One was I was invited and to keep updated, and another one was to hear what ideas are.
Interested in what other people have to say and realizing it's budget time, concern over Laguna Field and the playground issue, and teen center.
They wanted to talk about the lack of bike paths and interconnecting parks via bike paths. Most of us here were here because we want to just let everyone know that we do need an after-school recreational program for ages 13 to 18, and there's a lack of services right now for our community.
Bike paths, the community center, and then we had a couple that were improve the better maintenance of the fields and communication, the river walk. Those were our top ones.
Where did your money go?
My money went to the community center.
And the money was split between the artificial turf at the high school and the centralized management of the rec department.
Community-run after-school program and staff, and one went to the need to preserve natural habitat and environmental education, and the lack of bike paths.
Our dollars went to community center, all-weather facilities for sports and rec, artificial turf, and redesign of fields for efficient use of space.
Our money mostly went to keeping things in a natural setting, natural parks, money for fields, aquatic center, and tennis courts.
We're going to get together again in a few months to go over shared services, the findings, and the potential recommendations for how we can take the next step into reorganizing how we provide the services to the residents of both communities.
Study on the rec.
Hopefully it'll show that there's a great benefit to both villages by combining our resources in both parks and recreation. We already, through the schools and through our recreation programs, use the same facilities. Certainly from a kid's point of view or young adult's point of view, there's no difference between a village field or a school field, and I look forward to the time when we could be truly unified.
I think it was an excellent session. I think we got a lot of good ideas, a lot of great input, and it was good to see a real active public participation with a lot of good ideas coming forth.
We have a very good level of informal cooperation right now with the villages, but I'm hoping that out of this will come a more structured and maybe more formalized and more efficient system of cooperation, as well as having a master plan should position us to be competitive for grant funding in the future, which would benefit all of us.